It's June 7th, 2025, and my name is Eliel Hinojosa, and I'm here interviewing Azeroth Vansickle. Is that correct?
Yes.
For Voices of Service. Thanks so much for being willing to interview with us.
This is a good opportunity. I'm happy that, you're giving it to us.
Fantastic. Would you do me a favor and tell us your name again and then spell your name for us?
So my name is Azeroth Vansickle. It is spelled Azeroth, and then my last name is just Vansickle.
Thanks. And tell us, when and where were you born?
I was born in Winfield, Illinois, originally, in Chicago. Not Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, Winfield. I was born on June 29, 2003.
Okay. And who are your parents?
My mother is Tara Novosad. She lives in Houston now. And my father is Aaron Vansickle. My parents are obviously divorced. And he lives in San Antonio. And then I have a stepfather. His name's Dan Novosad, and he lives with my mother in Houston.
Okay. And what are your parents' occupations?
My mother is a payroll manager for Complete RX. It's a pharmaceutical company down in Houston. My stepdad is a engineer, electrical engineer, but he does office work. He mostly works at home. And then my father, he works at a warehouse for Continental.
Okay. Tell me about your schooling, primary and secondary schools that you attended, and any college experience that you had before Tarleton State.
Okay. So I moved around a lot. I wouldn't say my house life was unstable, but I at first lived in this duplex. And so I lived in a place called Katy, Texas, and the first elementary school, I think the name was Rhodes Elementary. And then I was there until 4th grade, and then I moved to Cypress, which is where my parents now live, and we stayed there. We moved a little bit when I was in the 4th grade. So I moved to Cypress, and I went to an elementary called Black Elementary. And so I was there until, 5th grade, finished out my year there. Then my middle school was Goodson Middle School in Cypress. And then my high school was Cypress Woods High School. And I had no prior college before Tarleton.
And so what year are you at Tarleton right now?
I'm currently a junior. I just became a junior.
Okay. And what's your major?
My major is wildlife science, and I'm minoring in criminal justice. I want to be a game warden.
Oh, fantastic. Did you have any jobs before entering the service?
I did. I worked as a kennel technician for this place called Rose Hill Pet Resort. I essentially worked with dogs. Take them out. It was a doggy daycare, so I would take them out, play with them, feed them until they were ready to go back home, or take care of them not overnight, but at the end of the shift if they were staying here, because we would board as well. But that was the job I had before I joined the service.
Okay. Now let's talk about joining the service. So when did you join the military? Did you enlist? And can you talk, or were you commissioned? I'm guessing you weren't commissioned because you don't have a college degree yet.
No.
Yeah. So talk about your enlistment.
So I enlisted. I enlisted on October 30th. That's right, because I did it a day before Halloween. I enlisted on October 30th, 2021, I believe. It was funny because I enlisted because of, a multitude of reasons, but it was mostly for college. We all come for college mostly. But my recruiter was actually a friend of my mom's friend. I had a joke with her that she knew everybody, and she knew my recruiter ever since he was very tiny. But he was a good recruiter. I remember distinctly him saying that he has an eye for people who can and can't go into the service, and he said that I would do well in the Army. And at first, when I went to basic, I thought he was lying, but it's basic, it's hard. And when I got out, I was like, you know what, he was right. So, but I think it was one of the best decisions I've made.
Why did you select the Army?
So I didn't think it through. It was because my recruiter was the Army, and my father, he was prior service. He was Air Force, and same as his father before him. he wanted me to go Air Force, and he was like, and my dad was like, "Go Air Force, you'll find something in Air Force." But there wasn't any medical stuff in the Air National Guard, so I was like, I'll go to the Army National Guard." And then turns out they didn't have the medical field available, so they stuck me as a fire technician.
Okay.
But it was mostly Army because I didn't want to listen to my dad, and I should have listened to my dad. Should have gone Air Force.
Gotcha. So, in the Army, can you talk to us about your basic training? And when you're talking to us about your basic training, can you share like any particularly vivid memories that you have from basic training?
It was hot. My basic training was in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It was hot. I went in the summer, in July. July 6th was my ship off date, actually. Can't believe I remember that. But I remember some stuff that was pretty funny. We had this one soldier who was not like not up to par, but she was one of the ones who was having a lot of troubles in basic, and I remember distinctly that all of us would help her try to just push through. And it was both males and females who would help her, because our drill sergeants would drill into us, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So we would help her, and unfortunately she didn't graduate with us. She had a medical emergency at the end, but from what I hear, she ended up graduating with another platoon. Mm-hmm. But that was a nice memory to have, where we all had our differences, but we still understood that, hey, even if she could have theoretically been dragging us down, we still wanted to help her push through to the end, and get there. And she got there eventually. And then of course my drill sergeants. I had a drill sergeant. Her name was Drill Sergeant Maddox. We nicknamed, not we, but the other drill sergeants would nickname her Mama Maddox, because no matter how hard she tried, she could not yell at us. She would try for probably a few seconds or probably a minute, but she just couldn't. And so she was usually our mama drill sergeant, but she was still terrifying when she could be. She'd still smoke us. She wouldn't hesitate about that, but she just would not yell at us. It wasn't just in her nature, but she was still terrifying in her own right. And I think that's really all I can really remember that's memorable. That's not, basic training stuff.
Well, let me ask the question a little bit of a different way. Is what was the best part of basic training for you, and what was the worst part of basic training for you?
I'd have to say the best part was something that we call Nick at Night, which is Night Infiltration Course. And it sounds redundant to say Nick at Night, but we always said it like that. But that was fun, because it is essentially where you're doing I think a 75-yard crawl. I could be wrong. It was a long crawl. But it was where you were doing a crawl at night over live rounds. And it was as our training to infiltrate a base under heavy fire. And you'd sometimes see tracer rounds where it was a round that would light up when it got shot. So you just see the tracer rounds fly over you, and that was pretty cool to see. And they would shoot up illumination rounds. They would only do it twice, and those were the times where you'd have to stay completely still. And that was the only time we had to break. And it was tough, but it was fun. I liked it. And one of the illumination rounds actually caught a tree on fire next in one of the areas. Mm-hmm. So they had to stop it for a minute, but we still all had to, lay down while they got it fixed. So I got a little bit of a longer rest. And then the worst part, I'd say in terms of how it wrecked my body, our last ruck, the 10 mile, which is what we call the forge. Mm-hmm. It was mostly because I had an open blister on the back of my heel because it was a 4-day but a 4-day field exercise, with the end of it being in a 10 mile, but we had rucked before all of that, and I had gotten a blister during it, and I had to do that 10 mile with that blister. But I did have Tylenol with me because I had injured myself earlier, so I had to go to sick hall, and they gave me Tylenol, and I used that to help myself get through. but it was still just not fun. It hurt. It was hot, but it got cooler off later on, but it hurt. But
Sure.
I would say that that's the worst just because, of my ankle. It still hurts to this day because the skin's just so thin there, but it's just funny how it is where whenever you're thinking what's the worst, there's really not a worst. It's more so what hurt the most, at least to me.
Yeah, makes sense. So tell us about your first assignment after basic training.
So after basic, I mean, we all go to AIT, but
And what does that stand for?
it stands for Advanced Individual Training. It's where we go to train in our MOS. I forgot what it stood for, but that's essentially our job in the military. Everybody goes to AIT at the end of basic, and it's a way for us to know what our job is. And each job has its own length of training. For me, for a 13 Fox fire support technician, mine was, I believe, 6 or 8 weeks. They did shorten it though, but I believe mine was 6 or 8 weeks. And that was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I hated it there. It was cold. It was dusty, windy, because it was just very flat land. Wasn't fun, but I met a lot of good people who actually ended up going to my unit because in the National Guard, very small world, and a lot of my battle buddies from Fort Sill ended up being in my unit because they were Texas National Guard too, and they were in my unit with me. So it was always cool to see. After AIT, my assignment to my unit, the 133rd HB Field Artillery Battalion, to see them, back, because I finished before some of them, and when they came, I was like, oh shoot, you're National Guard too? I didn't know that. So going to my actual assignment to HHB, being in Houston, terrifying. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a private first class at the time. I was just running around. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was holding a little folder of like all of my paperwork that they were like, this is important, you need it, and I didn't need it at all. And so I was like, why am I carrying this around? But but after a while, it got better, and that unit, ended up being home to me. But it was terrifying at first. I did not know what I was doing. All of our sergeants, we had like no specialists at the time, so they were having a field day with privates and making sure that they were squared away. They knew what they needed to know, and if we didn't, they smoke us.
So tell us about, what was your MOS again? What was it called?
13 Fox. It is also known as Fire Support Technician.
Tell us a little bit about your specialized training related to that particular job. Like, what is that job?
So a Fire Support Technician is essentially called the eyes of the gun, or as we like to call ourselves, the eyes of death. We go out into the field, and we are the primary people who locate targets, such as like tanks or enemy battalions, squads, vehicles, and we call it up to artillery, and we tell them where to shoot. And we have specialized equipment that can tell us their location, their direction, their distance, where they're at, what kind of vehicle it is, so they know which round to use. And we call that all up and transmit it to our artillery. So that's our howitzers, mortars, and we essentially tell them, hey, this is where they're at. Put this in and shoot them, because the guns can't see. Usually on the battlefield, they're not next to you. They're somewhere else on the battlefield because you want them away from the fire. Because as we're told on the battlefield, we're targeted first, because if they take us out, they take the guns out, and then the guns are targeted. So they're more pushed back, so they can't see the target at all, but we can. So we essentially go, hey, this is where they're at. This is what type of vehicle or people they are. This is so use that to see what rounds you need, and then more specifics you can say if you want different rounds like high explosive, white phosphorus, but we don't really use that on people. We use that on buildings. And then I think there's also red phosphorus, smoke, and we call that up, and then either they shoot the vehicle or the enemy combatants, or for smoke, we use that to essentially, if there's we need to get out of Dodge, we call up a smoke mission to screen our side so they can get away if stuff gets bad. And I like the job. It's intense at times. I mean, I've never been on the battlefield, but when we're in training on the simulator, our sergeants try to make it like it's a battlefield, because they don't. We have a strict, you have to get it out in 45 seconds. That's our doctrine for our transmission. The whole thing in 45 seconds. And they make sure you get it done in 45 seconds.
Right. So while you were in the service, did you receive any promotions? Can you talk about your rank, those kinds of things? And
so I went in actually as a private second class.
Okay.
The only promotion I ever, actually no, I did get promoted twice. I forgot about that. But I got my promotion to private first class in basic. And then in my unit, when I went, I was there for, I think, a year. And then I got my promotion to the rank I was when I left, specialist.
And what is a specialist? Like, is it a specialist in that particular MOS? Is that how that works, or?
No, it's just a rank.
Okay.
We all have a rank structure, and we have something called the lower enlisted, which is E1 through E4. So your E1 through E3 is just your privates. It's private second class, private first class, and then E4 is specialist. And then after that, there's the E5, which is your sergeant. It's just a special rank name. Me and my other specialist buddies, we like to pretend that we had special knowledge, and we'd mostly mess around with the private, saying that, like, you have to have the special knowledge to be a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's just a rank.
So when you went from high school into the service, had all these experiences, and have talked about some of them, share with us, what was the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things that you had to adapt to from the civilian world into the military world?
Having to follow the schedule, essentially, because whenever you're a civilian, you're used to doing things on your own time. You're used to not being told what to do. I mean, from your parents, yeah, but you're still used to doing things on your own time. You have to do this, and this, school, your homework, but after that, you're done. But in basic, you had a strict schedule, and it never changed, and you had to follow that. There was no, oh, you have an option to do this. No, this is what we're planned. This is what we're going to do. It doesn't matter if you don't want to do it, you're going to do it. And I think that was the hardest part, was just adapting to, essentially having to follow that strict plan. And even if I didn't want to do it, I had to do it. And the only downtime we ever got was Sundays for religious reasons. But even then, they wouldn't even let us relax for a little bit. They'd have us clean our bays, do our laundry, go to religious service. But that was just the hardest part for me, was adapting to all of just the new schedule. And then you have to do this. It's not, you can choose to, you have to do it. And as someone who never thought they'd join the service, because I always said when I was younger that I had authority issues, so I'm never joining the Army. I went to the Army, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, maybe I don't have authority issues, because my life is easier if I follow what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think that was just the hardest part to adapt.
And so then when you're in, tell us about where you were stationed, different orders that you received, those kinds of things. Like, did you move around the country at all, or were you stationed overseas at all, those kinds of things?
I was not. My service was pretty boring. I just stayed with my unit in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
When I did go, though, I had recently learned that our unit did deploy to Egypt, so I had kind of missed out on that. But no, I just stayed in Houston, Texas with my unit. National Guard works a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly boring most of the time, but I wish I got moved around, but It's National Guard.
Sure. I mean,
bo-
you're there,
we're-
right?
We're boring.
Well, until it's not. Until
Yeah,
it's not.
until
boring.
it's not boring.
Right. So let's talk about the people you met while you were in the service. Talk about friendships that you may have made, even friendships that are still lasting. So did you make any friendships during the time that you were in?
I did. I have a friend from Basic, actually, who I still talk to this day. Their name is, I forget their rank. I think they're still a specialist, but it's Specialist Shaw. We were at the same Basic platoon, and we became really good friends. I forget how we became friends, but we became really good friends. And it lasted all through Basic. We became friends like early in Basic, and it lasted all through Basic, all through AIT, and all these years. And I'm still very good friends with them. I miss them a lot. They're in Pennsylvania. They live there,
Okay.
and they're a part of the reserves. So I don't get to see them because they're stuck in Pennsylvania. But I talk to them a lot still. Probably my oldest military friendship. And then from my unit itself, I have actually a lot of friends from my unit. One of them that sticks out to me is Specialist Tran. How we became friends was just so funny because on his first day of of being at the unit, he locked his keys in his truck and he couldn't get it out. And I remember that he was freaking out so bad. And he went up to me and he was like, "Hey, I can't get into my car. Can you drive me to go to lunch since they let us off?" And I was like, "You know what? I'll bring you along. Let's go to lunch." And after that, we just became really good friends. And I don't let him live down that incident to this day because he did it once again after that. And he's one of my really good buddies. And I have a few others: Specialist Kalunga, Specialist George, Specialist Franklin. All of those are also really good friends that I still keep in touch with.
Oh, fantastic. Share with us like a humorous you've already sort of shared one there, but maybe
I have a lot.
Another humorous or unusual event of a time when you were all together training or doing something when you were all together.
So I know that whenever we went out to the field once for training, we went to the field once for training and we were setting up I think it's an OE, I forget the actual designation, but it's just large antenna that allows us to communicate with our radios and our guns. And we were setting it up, and me and Kalunga, it was me, Kalunga, Tran, and a few others that I wasn't really buddy with. But we were setting up the antenna, and we were kind of messing around when we shouldn't have. None of the sergeants were there. They kind of put one of the other specialists or one of the corporals in charge, and we were kind of messing around with it. And as we were trying to pull it up, I forgot what exactly happened, but all I remember is as we were pulling it up, one of our ropes goes slack and it falls. Oh my gosh. And we can't figure out what happened. And I think it falling, it didn't fall far. Thankfully, it didn't break. But it falling got the attention of one of the sergeants. He was not happy. We probably spent the next 20 to 30 minutes getting smoke the daylights out of us. But it's funny looking back at it because we were just, we were all, messing around. And, I guess somebody thought it would be funny to let go of the rope because we all have to pull it up and it's heavy. So I guess it was funny that someone thought it was funny to let go of the rope. But
Clearly not. But now looking back.
Yeah. I mean, even if it ends in getting smoked, you make memories and you look back on it and you're like, you know what, that was kind of funny.
So what would you say is your was the best part of your service experience?
Definitely the connections I made. I'm a very not really a people person, but I do like making connections with places that I'm in, because especially in the Army, because it makes it a lot easier to deal with the service because it can be hard at points, even if you're just National Guard and you're like only there for 2 days out of the month, it's still, with the sergeants that we had, they were old school. They wanted us, to be as good as we can be, because National Guard always gets sent out first, and this was a time where we really thought that something was going to go on with Russia, because this was the start of the Ukraine war. So they really thought that maybe we'd get sent, but in hindsight, we didn't. But it's still going on. But I'm out now, so my buddies back at my unit might have to deal with that. But the connections, it just makes life there a lot easier, and I wouldn't take it for granted. I still miss my friends, but I'm still glad that I can see them, because if I ever need to go home for some reason, I can always go home and then be like, hey, I'm in town. You want to hang out, get a drink? And, we go and we hang out, and then, I come back up here. But that's one of the good things about still being in Texas. Just only a 4-hour drive from Houston, but I can still, visit them if I want to.
Right. Do you remember when the day that your service ended?
Yes, it was not a good day.
Can you describe that for us?
It was kind of heartbreaking. I'm not gonna lie, because give me one moment. It's still hard to talk about. But I'm one of the soldiers who was affected by the transgender ban in the military, and my service got cut short, and it was just hard because I still had a lot of stuff left that I wanted to do. I had a lot of plans. And my unit was understandable. They did not like the idea. All of my buddies hated what was going on. Even my higher ups, they were like, "This is not good," because I wasn't the best soldier. I'm not going to say that, but my first sergeant, he really said that when I was talking to him about it, he saw potential, and he really wanted me to stay in, but choices from back then, getting my diagnosis, kind of showed on the military side, and there was no way for me to, keep it under wraps. So I had to voluntarily separate, and it's still hard. But my first sergeant said to me that if it ever gets pulled back, and if I'm allowed back in, the unit still has a place for me. But it's still hard. It was probably one of the worst days of my life to hear that news that, something that I can't change, that doesn't make me any different from any soldier, just only physically. But it's the world we live in. Some people don't understand, and people like me, take the fall for it. But I'm still taking the lessons that the military taught me, and applying it into my life today. So it's not a wasted effort. I still serve my country, and I still got very important life lessons from the military that still go with me today. It's just I wish that I had finished out my service completely.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the transition from military to civilian life, right? Even though in the National Guard there was a bit of a transition kind of constantly happening, maybe, but not being in the military anymore, even for the reasons that you mentioned. What was that full transition back into civilian life like for you? Can you describe that?
It was an interesting feeling, because as you said, we always had that constant transition. But when I got out and I sat down and was like, that's it, I'm gone, the full weight of it just got to me, and I was like, I'm back. I'm not back to being a civilian. I'll always be a soldier. I'll always be a veteran, but still just sitting down being like, I'm not going back to my unit. I'm not going to see my buddies again every month. I'm not going to get to mess around with them. It was heavy, because it's now just like, well, I have to adapt back to just being a regular civilian again, not having to go to drill every month and just have to adapt to just not, having to worry about when's drill, worry about my schedule and all that. And I mean, maybe that's a good thing because, sometimes I'd forget when drill was and I'd have to not haul myself, but just go a little bit faster down the highway. But it's still just, you sit down and every soldier is like, man, I can't wait to get out. But, me getting out the way I did, just sitting down and being like, well, and having the transition back, it's just like, well, man, this is it. And it was just pretty heavy at first. And it took me a while to fully transition back to, getting into the mindset of, well, I don't have to worry about, drill or what we're doing, or how long I'm going to be away for, who has to watch my cat, all that. And it's both a relief at first, because you're like, well, now I don't have to worry about this, but it's also like, man, this is my life now. So, but so my transition was a little bit harder than most.
Did you go back to work or school, or what did you do after you got out? Like, what were you doing when you weren't at drill? Were you working in the civilian world? Can you talk about like what you went back to in terms of your profession?
So I was working in the civilian world. I work at Cotton Patch as a dishwasher, and when the summer is not here, I am here at Tarleton studying. And so after the service, it was just going back to what I used to do when it wasn't at drill, just dishwashing and then going to school. And thankfully, I have a good support group at my job. I'm very abreast with everything that was happening, and they're very supportive. And they helped me. I'd say that they're the ones who are helping me get through all of this. But it's still hard even now.
Sure.
So, because it did happen pretty recently, but it's still hard. But working and being at school is just all now that I'm putting on my focus on. It's helping me, just come to terms with everything, but also just take my mind off it and continue on with my life.
Well, tell us about how you're using, 'cause obviously you're at school here, and I'm guessing you're using your benefits,
Yes.
your military benefits. So how else have you used your military benefits, and can you describe the way that you've been using your military benefits since leaving the service?
So, thankfully, since it was honorable, I still have my state tuition and federal tuition. I use both sometimes, but the state tuition given to me does cover most of my school. Excuse me. Most, if not all. So usually I use state tuition, but if I need a little bit more that they can't cover it, then I go to federal, and the federal will take care of it. GI Bill, I just use that to pay my rent because I don't really have books. I got lucky with the past few classes I've been taking that I don't need books, and if I do need books, they're online. But for the most part, the GI Bill helps with my rent, and if there's any books, I use it for books, and then the state tuition and federal tuition help with my immediate tuition costs. And that's what I've been using those for, both in and out.
Are there other benefits that you can use later for like home?
Yes, so I can use the VA home loan. I'm saving that until I figure out where I want to go. Because I don't want to stay in Texas. I do want to move. I want to go to Massachusetts, to Boston. That's my dream home. When I went there on a vacation, I fell in love with the city. And I'm not a city liver, but I fell in love with that place, and so I want to go there. So I'm saving my home loan to when I eventually am able to move up there, and that's going to be way in the future. And then I know we have our TRICARE. I don't use that yet because I'm still on my mom's insurance. I got lucky with that. Still being young, not 26 yet. So I'm going to be using my mom's insurance until I become 26, and then I'm going to go over the TRICARE because it's cheap. What other? The Hazelwood Act. The Hazelwood Act. That's also for state tuition, but I can't touch that. That is for either if I have a spouse or if I have children. The Hazelwood Act is for them, and it's only in, I believe, Illinois and Texas We are the only those are the only two states that offer it, but it's meant for your spouse if they want to go to college or your kids.
Okay.
So if I ever have a spouse who hasn't gone to college, or if I have kids, I'll probably give it to them.
So how would you say that your military experience has affected your life?
It's actually affected it in a pretty positive light. Before I went in, I was not a confident person. I was very shy, not very talkative, very insecure. And I mean, I was a teenager when I went in. I was like 17. We're all like that, but it was just more so than most. I had a lot of anxiety, and just didn't really like being out a lot. But when I joined, and with basic, it really helped me get the confidence that I lacked. It helped me with just my self-image, my confidence, just a lot of everything that I guess that was holding me back. The military helped me get over that. I'm less anxious than I was before. I'm more outgoing than I was before. More confident. I take pride in myself now. So the military has affected my personal life in a pretty positive light. And being in the National Guard, it didn't really. I wasn't inactive where I was moving around a lot and didn't have time to talk to friends or family or have to worry about if they'd visit me on the holidays. So in my personal life, it didn't really affect me as much negatively. So, but it affected me more positively.
So what would you say the greatest lesson you've learned while in the military was, if you had to choose something?
Definitely my confidence. It's made life a lot easier for me. It just made life a lot easier. You really don't understand how easy life can be if you just have that confidence in yourself. Because at first, being a teenager, being very insecure and unconfident in myself, life was just very hard to navigate. Because you can't really bring yourself to apply yourself to something because you don't have that confidence. But with that confidence that the military gave me, it made it just a whole lot easier to apply myself to places, to apply myself out to jobs, to not blend in with the others. It gave me the confidence to step out and with job interviews not blend in with the others and be like, hey, that's a confident person, we want that. And that's probably the greatest lesson the military has given me.
Right. So tell me about your feelings about the military in general. Now, you mentioned, right, being very affected by having to get out of the military, which was, I think you said voluntary, but...
It was voluntary, but technically involuntary.
Right. So what are your feelings about the military in general or now, or how would you answer that question?
I still see the military in a positive light, because even after all of that, it wasn't the military's decision, it was our commander-in-chief's decision. So I don't blame the military for that. We, as a military, are non-political. We don't affiliate with any, we're not supposed to, but we don't affiliate with any politician. It's just whoever's commander-in-chief, and what they say is what goes. Same with our Secretary of Defense, since they're technically our boss outside of our commander-in-chief. So we have to go with what they say, as long as it's constitutional, lawful, and humane. Because if it's unconstitutional, unlawful, and inhumane, then we can, say we can not follow that order. But I mean, technically, what he gave out was not unlawful because the ban was upheld by the Supreme Court and they interpret the law. So our hands were tied, and even as much as my unit didn't want me to go, we had our hands tied. So, but I don't blame the military for that. It's not their fault. It was an order that had to be given, and thankfully looking at it, they gave us the option to voluntarily separate at first before they started actually doing involuntary separation, where it was the true kicking you out. they gave us a chance to be like, hey, you can go to voluntary separate now, and you'll get to keep your benefits, and you'll get to have voluntary separation pay. I didn't get that because my year of service was less than 6, but they at least gave us that option. But my view on the military is still positive. Gave me a lot of good, and again, they couldn't do anything. Hands were tied, and I don't blame them for that.
What would you want future generations to know about your time in the military?
I'd want them to, especially with the future generations like me, if they're ever allowed back into the service, I want them to know that to not let the opinions of others get to you, to be proud of who you are, especially if you're allowed back into the service. Because before then, there were people like me who were allowed in, and I want them to know that, to be especially proud. Don't let anybody get to you about who you are. And then, those who aren't like me, but still are looking to go in, if you have that call to serve, go. What people talk about in the military, if with basic, it's not as hard as people make it out to be. It's all a mental thing. So when you go, just, keep yourself strong, and you'll get out, and you'll go to the service. And when you get into the service, be proud of what you're doing. It's an exceptionally rare thing for people to join to raise their right hand. It's only 1% of the population that does. And they even told me that when we get out of basic and AIT, it's only 1% of that 1% who ever graduates. Because we get a lot of people who separate from basic because it's not for them. But if you ever get through it, be proud. You're serving a very good cause, serving your country, and it's a cause that's worth serving. And outside of the benefits too, you get a benefit to your personal life. You'll be confident. You'll have a lot of life lessons learned that you can't learn anywhere else, especially at our age, with a lot of us enlisting at 17 or 18. You'll get ahead in life, and it's completely worth it. And if somebody's still debating, I'd say do it. A lot of us say don't join, but if you feel called to, and if it's like you have like a burning passion to, go ahead, go to your recruitment office, sign the papers, and just start your service.
And lastly, is there anything that you want others to remember about your specific story?
I just like them to remember that even though I'm different from them, even though I'm a person that my current identity is currently under a lot of fire, I want them to know that no matter what, if they think of me in a positive or negative light, it was still a pleasure to have served our country, to have protected them. That the chance I was given was one of the best chances of my life, and that I want them to know that there are people like me who do want to serve, and that we're no different from everybody else, that all we want to do is serve, all we want to do is protect this country, and we're no different. And I want them to, I guess, remember that the fight that I had to fight to get to where I was, even though it ended in me having to get out, I still fought for as long as I could to serve them, because that's all I wanted to do, was serve this country and serve them. And that even if it's not appreciated because of who I am, it was still a pleasure to have served, and I want them to remember that.
Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for being willing to be interviewed for this project.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.